Hey guys, what is up? I hope everyone's doing well out there. Hope you're safe and healthy. Um, so I really want to make a point tonight to come on here and talk a little bit about uh, this weekend's card, more specifically Jose Aldo Jr. and Piotr Jan. And I know I couldn't put it off anymore, or else this video is not going to get put out at all. Work's been long hours and actually done some research on this fight, not as much or extensive as I wanted to, but I did do some research and I feel like I have a comfortable read on it, or at a minimum, some insight and my own perspective of how I could see this fight going down. So we'll just jump right into it. Piotr Jan, he opened as a minus 240 favorite. um, and the comeback on Jose Aldo was plus 200. Um, the odds have since actually declined a bit on Jose Aldo. He's about a plus 180. I think last time I looked on my book, he was at a plus 195. But, right around about plus 200. And then, Piotr Jan can be had at around anywhere between minus 210 and minus 240. So when they first announced this fight, I really didn't think much of it, other than like, wow, they're actually giving it to Jose Aldo, who's coming off a loss to Marlon Moraes, and then before that, a loss to Alexander Volkanovski, the current featherweight champion that's also fighting on this card. So I didn't really think too much of it until we got a little bit closer, and I did a little more research and thought about it some more, watched some videos, read some interviews, and I thought Jan should be the favorite, probably the rightful favorite, because you know what you're gonna get from Piotr Jan. There's no guessing. Whereas Jose Aldo, he can just not show up sometimes, especially getting to I don't know if it's going to be the tail end of his career, but certainly probably just past his prime. He can be real hit or miss, but we can talk a little bit more about that. So Jose Aldo being at a plus 200 gives an implied probability of about 33%, or basically what the bookies or what the line is telling you is that Jose Aldo has approximately a 1 in 3 chance to win this fight. And from what I've looked at, I disagree with that. I think Jose Aldo Jr., if we get the best Jose Aldo Jr. version, which is certainly no guarantee, which is the risk that we're running here. If we get the best version of Jose Aldo Jr., even at he seems older than this, but even at 33 years old, I think this fight is 50-50 or even better. I would even slightly favor Jose Aldo, but we don't know if we're gonna get. We don't know what we're gonna get from Jose Aldo necessarily. Whereas, like I said, we know what we're gonna get from Piotr Jan. We're gonna get that consistency and that competitiveness from Jan, which is why, with the question marks behind Aldo, you have to favor at least slightly Piotr Jan. Anyway, Piotr Jan training out of Tiger Muay Thai. It's a good camp. He's got good boxing. He's shown great takedown defense. He has phenomenal pressure. He just kind of breaks his opponents down. He just breaks them down. He presses them. I wouldn't say he necessarily has a ton of power. He does have knockout power, but it's not necessarily one shot knockout. It's more of a volume style. he works off his jab well. He does stand heavy on his lead leg, which we'll get into. Uh, he's he's listed as a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Not something never in the tape I've seen. It's not something that he's had to rely on. By the way, his record is 14-1. His one loss was by decision, which he avenged a few years back. I think that was back in 2016 was his only loss. He did lose in the amateurs. He was knocked out in a fight on the amateur circuit. I couldn't find the video, but regardless, he's handled his business in the UFC 6-0 with knockouts over Ishihara, Douglas Silva, D'Andrade, and then most recently knocked out Uriah Faber in the third round. He's fought good competition, which I'm sorry, I'm a little bit scattered here. I've been at work all day. Just so you know how the size is, Piotr Yan is listed at 5'7.5" with a 67-inch reach. He's got kind of a small frame, in my opinion, which means he probably doesn't cut much weight, which is good. But he seems very slender. So I would say he's probably about an average size bantamweight. And then, if you compare him to somebody like Sean O'Malley, he's a much smaller bantamweight in comparison to someone like Sean O'Malley. But bigger than a guy like John Dodson, who he defeated by decision. So he kind of fits in that middle ground. So anyway, I would rate Piotr Jan's strength of schedule, if you will. He's had decent opponents. He handled Douglas Silva, D'Andrade accordingly. He broke him down, knocked him out, or I think it was corner stoppage. Then he went on to fight John Dodson. Clearly won the decision, but people seem to forget that Piotr Jan was dropped by John Dodson, a former flyweight. John Dodson countered nicely and dropped Piotr Jan. I think it was in the second round. People seem to forget that John Dodson's a former flyweight, moving up to bantamweight, and it's also John Dodson on the tail end of his career. But credit to Piotr Jan, he survived and he won a decision. Jimmy Rivera had success against Piotr Jan. Jimmy Rivera did get knocked down twice in that fight. They were defining moments of that fight. But Jimmy Rivera had success in that fight against Piotr Jan. Also, this is a Jimmy Rivera after he got knocked out by Marlon Moraes, and after he lost to Aljamain Sterling. So it's not the same necessarily Jimmy Rivera that was at his peak. He was beating Pedro Munoz and Uriah Faber and Thomas Almeida. It's we know what we get from Jimmy Rivera now, which is he's gonna have moments. But anyway, so he beat Jimmy Rivera, but Jimmy Rivera had success in that fight. Uriah Faber, who is not known to be a very good striker, he's much more of a grappler and a wrestler. He handled Uriah Faber accordingly, but Uriah Faber made it into the third round. I think he was 41 years old, Uriah Faber. So they're good wins, but they're not overly impressive. And I bring that up because if we look at Jose Aldo and his strength of schedule, if you will, and the killers that he's fought. Of course, when he was on that, I think a 10-year unbeaten streak, he beat those same guys, but he beat Uriah Faber when, Faber was 30, not 40. He beat Kenny Florian, Chad Mendez twice, Frankie Edgar twice. Of course, we know what happened when he fought Conor McGregor. McGregor sparked him, but that's a lightweight. It's Conor McGregor, and then of course he bounced back to beat Frankie Edgar after the McGregor loss. Yes, he did lose to Max Holloway twice, and that's important to note because Holloway does have some similar characteristics, I would say, to Piotr Jan, but Holloway's also much bigger. Holloway's a lightweight, and that was Holloway at his absolute peak. So, afterwards, Jose Aldo, he bounced back, and people seem to forget. He knocked out Jeremy Stephens with a body shot, one of the most vicious body shots you've seen in the UFC. And then he went and followed up by beating one of the top prospects at 145 pounds in Renato Moicano, by knockout. Like it seems like people forget this. This was not that long ago. This is a year ago, 2 years ago. We're not that far removed from seeing just what Jose Aldo Jr. is capable of. Now, yes, afterwards he did lose to Alexander Volkanovski, but that's one of the fights I wanted to rewatch. And it just seemed like Jose Aldo Jr., he was timid from what I recall. He just didn't want to throw any volume. There's something about Volkanovski that threw him off. Or maybe he's just having a bad night. I'm not sure. But, it's an important note to make. When he lost to Alexander Volkanovski, the just lack of volume that Jose Aldo Jr. had. And if we get that kind of Jose Aldo, where he just doesn't want to throw, he's timid, he just backs up, he's going to lose a decision. So that's part of the risk factor here. Now, afterwards, he did go on and he, in my opinion, I thought watching that fight live, I was in attendance, I thought he beat Marlon Moraes by decision. At least I edged it for for Jose Aldo. I've gone back and watched it since, and I still edged it for Jose Aldo. But he did come up with the L. But there's some very important things to note from that fight. Firstly, it's Jose Aldo Jr.'s first fight at bantamweight. He made weight, and he looked good. In that opening 20 seconds, I think it was, Marlon Moraes landed a head kick on Jose Aldo Jr., and Jose Aldo Jr. ate it, seemingly without much problem. And that was the same head kick that Marlon Moraes knocked out Jimmy Rivera with. And Jose Aldo, he ate it, didn't seem to have an issue with it, and he pressured Marlon Moraes. In my opinion, he lost the first round, just because, Marlon Moraes, he's always pretty dominant in that first round, but it was very competitive. Something else to make note of that fight is the cardio for Jose Aldo Jr. seemed to hold up quite well. Even at the end of the third round, Aldo was still pressuring, didn't seem to really lose much behind his steam. Now, you could kind of maybe not put too much stock into it because Marlon Moraes does fade after maybe the 7-minute mark of the fight. So you can't compare it completely between when Jose Aldo is pressuring somebody like Marlon Moraes, and he's just really only being concerned with Marlon Moraes' jab, which Marlon Moraes was landing almost at will against Aldo, which is something to be concerned about. But Peter Yan, he's not going to, not likely, he's not going back up. He's also a pressure fighter. So the question is who's going to give? Is Aldo going to give in his pressuring, or is Piotr Yan going to give? And I think it may actually be more likely that Aldo gives, just because we've seen him do that recently with Volkanovski in their fight. So, it's just part of the risk factor that you have to take into consideration if you're going to bet somebody like Jose Aldo. It kind of comes down to, if you think we're going to see the Jose Aldo Jr., I wouldn't necessarily even say prime Jose Aldo, but the same Aldo that showed up to fight and knock out Jeremy Stephens or Renato Moicano again 2 years ago. If we see that Aldo, I think there's a very strong possibility that he not only wins this fight, but he knocks out Peter Yan. But the risk factor is, we don't know if that version of Aldo is going to show up. But you know what? I can tell you right now, I already took a stab on him at plus 200. I thought that was outrageous. If this was 29-year-old Aldo against even this version of Yan, Aldo would be a minus 300 favorite. There's no question about it. But obviously, again, Aldo's really not that old. 33 years old, but he's had a lot of wars. So you have to think, at what point is that going to completely catch up with Aldo? Because I think it has in moments. But has it completely overtaken him? I don't think so. I from the interviews that I've read, I want to watch this week's Embedded and see how he looks. But from the interviews I've read from his teammates and from Aldo himself, he's extremely motivated. This is his chance to redeem himself, dating all the way back to when he got knocked out by Conor McGregor in 13 seconds. This is his moment to completely redeem himself. And you could say, yeah, in Holloway, in his fights with Holloway, those were his opportunities too, and I completely agree. But Holloway, like I said, he's a different animal at 145 pounds at that time. And you know what? If Peter Yan had moved up in weight and fought Max Holloway, Peter Yan would have lost too. If Yan would have went up in weight and fought Volkanovski, he would have lost too. And does Yan beat Moicano or Jeremy Stephens? That's a big question mark. So Aldo's going to be the bigger guy. He's going to have distinct advantages if we get the Jose Aldo Jr. that I expect us to get. And I personally think Jose Aldo Jr. at plus 200 is a good bet. That's my personal opinion. I think it's a good bet. I won't go so far as to say it's a great bet or an excellent bet or a must-take bet. It's not. There's a lot of risk involved with it. Just simply, like I said, because we don't know what version of Jose Aldo Jr. we're going to get. But at plus 200, and like I said, those odds are starting to decline. I took them at plus 200. I felt good about it. I think if you're on the side of Piotr Yan, I think if you want to make money out by taking Piotr Jan, I think you take him by fourth or fifth round knockout. I don't see Aldo Jr. getting knocked out inside of the first 3 rounds personally. It could happen. Maybe Aldo's turned 40 years old overnight. Um, there's other things like uh, travel, COVID, coronavirus. In Brazil, it's run rampant. How's that affected Aldo's training? We don't know. Maybe it's really limited him. Uh, I think even I read Aldo's head was it Aldo? His head coach had coronavirus, or maybe it was somebody else in the card. Um, anyway, uh, but travel. It's in it's on Fight Island. In Abu Dhabi? What's the conditions in the arena going to be like? There's a lot of little details that could actually and absolutely change the way a fight could turn out. Will the AC work? It's going to be 90 degrees outside at I think 4 o'clock in the morning when they fight. Uh, is the AC going to work? Because in Abu Dhabi, the last time they fought there, the AC didn't work. The fighter said it was like 100 degrees in there. That could destroy Aldo's cardio. Where we know as Piotr Jan, he's gonna pressure and pressure and pressure as well, and I think um, Jan might have the edge in cardio. Aldo's weight cut, it's extremely critical. If tomorrow we see Aldo step on the scales and he looks like absolute shit, it's probably just best to pass completely. Um, because Aldo's cutting to 135 pounds. It was tough for him to cut to 145 pounds his whole career. Now, everything I've seen, his diet's turned around. He's taking it very seriously. And he already made bantamweight once, which makes me feel a lot more comfortable. If this is his first cut to bantamweight, it'd be a pass all day. But the fact that he's made bantamweight, recently, before, gives me more confidence that he'll be able to make the weight again. But it's in Abu Dhabi. Strange shit can happen. Maybe he has a terrible weight cut. So there's definite risk associated with that as well. But in my opinion, Jan is hittable. He has nice boxing. He's susceptible to leg kicks. I think Aldo, maybe we will actually see him fire off leg kicks, which it's only going to take a handful, in my opinion, of Aldo's leg kicks to tear up Jan's legs, because Aldo's going to be the bigger guy in there. He's shown that he can take damage at 135 pounds and eat shots from Marlon Moraes. Head kick from Marlon Moraes, he can eat those shots. I can't imagine Piotr Jan having that same knockout power. Now again, it's a lot of volume, it's a lot of pressure, and maybe that will make Aldo wilt. But give me Aldo. I got a lot of respect for Jan. He could very well come out here and prove why he's a minus 250, minus 230 favorite. It could just be his time. He's 27 years old. He's more from that region of the world. I think that's going to benefit him. But Jose Aldo Jr. at plus 200, it was a no-brainer in my opinion. A lot of value in it. Like I said, bookie, it's built into where it's said that he has about a 1 in 3 chance. Like I said, if we get a fully committed and motivated and healthy Jose Aldo, I think it's a 50-50 fight or better in Jose Aldo's favor. So as it stands, I would slightly lean Jan, but it would be on like minus 150 in my opinion. Um, it's dog or pass completely in this fight, and given the odds, Jose Aldo Jr. plus 200, I'll take it. Like I said, if you're on the side of Jan, there's some value in the 4th or 5th round knockout, maybe by decision, but I think 4th or 5th round knockout was like 12 to 1 or 14 to 1. Pretty good odds in my opinion. If you're on the side of Jan, I think that's worth a shot. But yeah, give me Jose Aldo Jr. plus 200. If you get to the betting window and he's down to plus 140, plus 150, might be just best to pass. Also, take a look at the weight cut tomorrow. But yeah, I'm going to try and put out another video tomorrow or Saturday morning with my thoughts on maybe not the entire rest of the card, but at least some of the rest of the card. I mean, there's just some outrageous lines, just Kendraj plus 185, plus 190. Holloway and Volkanovski I haven't completely made up my mind on yet. If Holloway would be worth taking a shot on at big dog money. But we'll get more into that in the next video. Masvidal's odds have already declined rapidly. Spoiler alert, I'm a Masvidal fan. I respect Usman. I think Usman is absolutely the rightful favorite, but I did take a shot on Masvidal at plus 240. It might be a little more with my heart, but just because Masvidal has come through huge for me before. So yeah, we can get into those in the next video. But yeah, this one, just my thoughts between Aldo and Jan. I like Aldo to win, but it is a 50-50 fight in my opinion. So you got to go with the dog, a big underdog at that. Yeah, I've rambled on a lot and enough in this video. Been up since about 4 in the morning. It's I think it's what time is it? 10 p.m. So yeah, comment below, tell me what you think about it, tell me your perspective. Maybe I'm way off base, maybe Jan goes out there and dominates. It's very possible. So yeah, comment below, like, subscribe. I love to chat, talk about fights. So yeah, thanks guys for watching.